and I'm going to be guiding you for the next 30 minutes through a short series of breath-guided relaxation and gentle movement, incredibly gentle movement. So the purpose of restorative yoga is really quite different from some other types of yoga that you may have practiced before. So if you're new to restorative yoga, please know we are not here to stretch our bodies. We're not here to strengthen our bodies. We're really here for quite the opposite. We are here to try to release both physically and energetically. So this is a very slow, very accessible practice designed to help you find deep relaxation and surrender, even if you only have 30 minutes to practice today. So we're going to start by coming into a seated position. Before you take a comfortable seat, let's get ourselves set up with our props. So I'd like you to have, if possible, 2 yoga blocks. If you don't have blocks, you can have some extra cushions or perhaps a thick book that you have in the house. We can also have cushions. If you have a long yoga bolster, that can be helpful. If you don't have that, any pillows or throw pillows will work perfectly fine. I also have a cushion here for me to sit on, so I'm going to bring that underneath of my bum. It may also serve you to have a folded up blanket. It just gives us lots of options for supporting the body as we start to come into our shapes. So let's start first by just coming into Sukhasana, easy seated, starting to sit up nice and tall, accentuating the natural curve of the spine. Feel welcome to close down your eyes if that feels safe and comfortable for you. And start to connect with the breath. Start to tune into this idea of finding release through this yoga practice. Maybe that means letting go of something today. Maybe there's somewhere in our life that we're not quite ready to come to a stop sign, but maybe we can yield to it a little bit. Feel the breath, breathing in whatever pattern, whatever rhythm feels comfortable for you here today, and just being an observer, noticing, allowing the experience to unfold as it needs to. See if you can surrender to the idea that this is exactly where you need to be. Anything else that's waiting for you beyond the practice is exactly that. It will be waiting for you beyond the practice when we finish. Feel the expansion and contraction with each breath that you take. Notice if, even just in these few minutes, you start to notice anything in the body, anything in the mind, any sort of energy that's coming up as we start to settle into this stillness. Sometimes we can confront a bit of resistance when it comes to being still, being quiet. The world has told us that we need to do. And restorative yoga is quite the opposite. It is really the art of not doing. Practice not doing and take a few more deep, steady breaths where you are. And slowly, gently, start to bring a little bit of movement into the body, maybe just circling the shoulders back, maybe lifting the shoulders up towards the ears and then letting them drop down. Moving as slowly and mindfully as you can here. few rotations of the wrists. And then turn the head, look to the right. Back through center. We'll look over to the left. When you're ready, come back through center. We'll take that head into the right hand, kind of just grabbing on the opposite side here, and just start to draw the head down towards the right shoulder. Feeling a gentle stretch through the left side of the neck. Come back to center when you're ready, and we'll repeat that on the opposite side. Gentle pressure with the palm, inviting in an easy, gentle stretch in the right side of the neck this time. Come back through center once again. Let's take the hands in front of us, keeping the spine nice and long. Let's walk the hands forward. What we're doing right now is just a little bit of warm-up to feel into the body, to gently stretch and notice where there's resistance to that idea of surrender. And walk the hands back in towards you. As we come into the main part of our practice, we're going to come into just a couple of shapes that will hold for a bit of a longer period of time, up to 5 minutes for each shape. So to get started, I'm going to take the cushion out from underneath of me. I invite you to do the same. If you're sitting on something, just set it aside. And we're going to set up for reclined bound angles. So there's a couple of ways that you could do this. I'm going to take my yoga blocks. I'm going to set up one on its long edge, so kind of on its second setting in terms of height. And then I'm going to take the other one and it's on the short edge, so it's on its tallest setting. And if you have a long, flat yoga bolster, this would be a great place to use it. You can drape it across or kind of lean it on top of the blocks. I don't have that, so I'm going to roll up my blanket or kind of fold up my blanket here in such a fashion that it allows me to kind of let it act as a bolster. So I'm going to drape it over the blocks here to provide some cushioning. And then I'm going to bring my bum just below one of the blocks. And then I'll gently start to lie back, just making sure, being careful that you are bringing the spine over top of the blocks. And so try to bring the taller block or the taller part of your bolster underneath of the neck to support you here. And then make it so that your back feels comfortable. Adjust that bottom block as much as you need to. And then I'm going to invite you to bring some sort of cushioning, whether it be another yoga block, a cushion, a blanket, anything that you like to kind of start to support the knees. So as we lie back here, we're going to bring the soles of the feet together, allow the knees to drop open in a version of Baddha Konasana, bound angle. You can let the arms kind of splay open, move anything out of the way that prevents you from fully surrendering to the shape, fully melting towards the floor. And we're going to spend about 5 minutes here in this shape. So as we land, the invitation is to really see what needs to happen in order for you to surrender to being here. Physically, can we find a bit more release? Can we find a bit more stability by supporting the body? Maybe the knees still feel like they're floating, so maybe we add something else underneath of them for padding. Maybe bringing another cushion, maybe bringing a blanket. There's an opportunity to add padding maybe under arms that feel like they're hanging. We can do that as well. So allow yourself to be fully supported. Again, this is very different from a flow style yoga class where we're really engaging, strengthening and lengthening the muscles. Here we're really trying to avoid doing any of that. So your only job is to tune into the body, tune into the mind, and notice what is hanging on. What parts of you continue to be engaged? Are there parts, physical parts, muscles that want to continue to engage, that are really kind of tensing, gripping for something, reaching for something? And is there anything in the mental landscape that's begging for a little bit of attention here? As you do find those thoughts that are begging for your attention, much like anything else, like if there was a puppy trying to get your attention or a small child, it's not about just kind of shooing them away. We give them a little bit of space, we notice, we listen, and then that need becomes less, right? We've addressed what needs to be addressed. It doesn't mean it's gone forever. That thought may come wandering back 2, 3, 5, 10 minutes later. Allow it to come and go, and surrender, yield to that come and go. If there are a lot of really nagging thoughts today that are disturbing your peace, distracting you from being able to rest and relax, sometimes we can benefit from bringing in a different type of distraction. So maybe you start to count the breaths. Breathing in for a count of 4, and then maybe breathing out for a count of 4. Or maybe even not trying to change the breath at all, but just counting, noticing how many seconds you naturally breathe in for. How many seconds do you naturally breathe out for? Is the in the same as the out, or is it longer? We have about 1 more minute here. And what can you do to invite in a little bit more stillness? Take a few more breaths here in this shape. Notice if the heart feels any more open. Notice if anything else has changed within the body, within the mind, even as you just brought in these few moments of stillness and quiet. And lift the knees back through center, ground the feet. Gently start to come up off of your blocks. We'll roll over onto one elbow or one forearm. kind of coming off of the props here. We will dismantle our setup, little spot that we've constructed, moving the blocks out of the way. Refold your blanket and move it out of the way. And then coming back to seated here. Start to lie all the way back down onto the floor. Keep your bolster or bolsters or cushions close by you. Allow the knees to lift. So the knees are kind of bent at 90 degrees above the hips. Take one of those cushions or bolsters, bring it between the legs here so that your knees are kind of staying at hip width distance. Have your other bolster or maybe a rolled up blanket underneath where your knee's going to land. So we're going to take the arms out wide and we're going to start to twist to the right hand side, letting the knees drop, allowing that bottom knee, that bottom leg to be supported by the bottom cushion. Top leg is supported on the top cushion. And then start to land here. As you start to land, just as we did in our reclined angle, notice if anything's hanging, notice if anything is sort of gripping and hanging on. And then maybe you bring in additional supports if you feel that. So you could take another cushion or even a block, perhaps behind the hip, behind the bum, and just allow that to support you. If you feel like you're kind of hanging out in space and you want to roll back onto the bum, just bring something there to help hold you up. Allow yourself during this practice to be fully supported. And then come to stillness. Come back to the breath. Ask yourself here if you are willing to surrender to deep rest. Even knowing that we have only a short time together today, 30-minute practice for something that often we can spend a lot more time on. Are you willing to surrender for those full 30 minutes? And see what comes up. We're about halfway through this shape. Notice if anything feels uncomfortable in the physical body. Is there anything that you could do to release just a little bit more here, to feel a little bit more comfortable, to spend a few more minutes exactly where you are? Do your best to turn back to the breath. Come back to the breath. Notice its rhythm. Notice its depth. Notice its pattern, the journey that it takes as it fills up the abdomen. And then as you release. Take 3 more deep breaths where you are. And if you've brought something underneath of your hip or your glute to support you, let's go ahead and slide that out of the way. Gently anchor the arms down to pull the knees back up. Find yourself at center. Notice if there's any discomfort, if there's any wiggles or restlessness that we need to release here. Take just a few seconds to do that. We'll start to set up for the second side. So let's bend our knees once more. Bring the cushion again between the knees, between the legs. Allow the knees to be somewhere close to hip distance apart. Set up that cushion on the opposite side. Maybe you set up your cushion or your block on the other side of you, preparing to support the hip. Take the arms out wide. Let the head, back of the head rest on the floor on the mat. And then gently drop the knees to the left side. Continue looking up towards the sky, towards the ceiling. And then check in. Ask what needs to be adjusting and adjust it. See what needs to be released and see if you can release it. Again, maybe if that right hip feels a little bit unsupported, we bring something behind it. We can kind of give ourselves a tuck in. Restorative yoga is sometimes like tucking yourself in for bed. Making sure you're nice and snug, well supported, nothing's hanging out. And we're creating the conditions for deep rest where we can allow the muscles, the body, and also the mind to disengage from the stresses of everyday life. We only have a short time left together in our practice, so can you surrender to being here? Can you relax and soften, knowing that I will guide you out when it's time? There's nothing else for you to worry about in this moment. And we have less than 1 minute left here in this shape. And take just a few more deep breaths where you are. Savoring these last few moments in supine twist. And then gently sliding anything out of the way that's needed to allow you to roll back onto the back body. Remove your bolster or your pillow, set it aside, and remain on your back. And start to extend the legs out long. We ask once again, just like in our other shapes, is to notice if anything needs adjusting here. We tend to think of Shavasana, or this lying down pose, as a place of relaxation, a place of natural comfort, but it might not be that way for everybody. To notice if there's maybe some space between your shoulders and the floor. Can we bring something underneath of there for support? If it would feel good to possibly bring your bolster or your rolled up blanket underneath of your knees for support, we can try doing that. If it would feel more restful and more restorative to take another shape entirely, you're not bound to this one expression. You could bend the knees, you could take the knees up the wall, the legs up the wall. You could take the fetal position. The invitation here is simply to find the shape that feels the most restful for you, to spend our last few moments in deep rest, inviting in release. If you don't feel like you've found release or deep rest yet in this practice, it's okay. That's part of the experience. I invite you to release all expectations of what it should look like. Let go of all of the shoulds and woulds. And know that the ultimate surrender is just showing up for yourself. Just being here. Can we surrender to the idea that this is exactly where we need to be right now? In whatever messy, mixed up way things might be showing up for you. This is where you are, it's where you need to be. There's lots of time to work through whatever needs to be worked through. here to do another body scan, noticing each area of the physical body from the crown of the head down through the neck and the shoulders, into the chest, the abdomen, the back, right through the hips, the thighs, the knees, the calves, the ankles, the feet, right down to the tips of the toes. What do you feel in your body? And is it coming from your body, or is it some of it coming from your mind, and maybe any stored emotions that we haven't quite been able to release? Sit with that for a few more moments. And consider, as we start to come to the end of our practice, is there anything that you can leave behind on the mat that isn't serving you? Can we release and surrender to just a little bit of moving on from those things today? If you're enjoying this place of rest and relaxation, you're welcome to stop the video and continue lying in Shavasana for as long as you like. Otherwise, you're welcome to join me in a comfortable seat. We can take our hands together at heart center with one final breath to close out the practice. Breathe in deep through the nose. Exhale through the mouth, let it all go. Beautiful yogis, from my heart to yours, thank you so much for your practice. Keep practicing.